Good morning to everyone all around the country. I would like to take a moment to welcome you to my show, Ideas for Impact, but also to Mount Delzingaro's show, Coffee with Delzy. This is our first co-hosted episode together, and I could not be more excited to be speaking with our guest, Philip Koontz, alongside my colleague and good friend, Delzy here. In creating the show, we had two things top of mind. First, we wanted to provide some relevant, timely advice from someone who has the credentials to help us with our mindset during adverse times. And second, and most importantly, we wanted to honor our veterans as Veterans Day approaches this coming Friday. With these goals in mind, our research led us to the man, the myth, the legend, Philip Koontz, former Navy SEAL, who you see here with all of his awesome gear on. Philip, big thank you for being here with us this morning, but an even greater thank you for your service and continued service to this great country we live in. So thank you for being here this morning.
Yeah, you're welcome. You guys, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man, anytime. I want to give a little bit more background on you before we get into today's conversation. And also wanted to welcome any questions you may have for Philip this morning. The chat feature is open at the bottom. So feel free to put your question in your chat, and we'll try to answer as we go along here as well. So don't be afraid to interact with us.
I like lots of questions. Please ask lots of questions. That's what makes this fun. Yep.
Yeah, awesome. So don't let us down out there, ask those questions. So Philip, as you mentioned, is a former Navy SEAL of 6 years, where he takes his life lessons forged through trials of SEAL training and currently helps others practically apply them to their personal, professional, and family lives. And Philip, I got to say, it was a big win when I saw not only you say personal, professional, but also your family lives when we were doing research. So thank you for that focus, and because sometimes that gets left behind. After being honorably discharged in 2009, you enjoyed success as a motivational speaker in business, academic, athletic, and in religious environments. That's quite a diverse background there. And he has spoken in hundreds of events, both internationally and stateside. You have your master's degree in leadership and a life and business coach. You also hold leadership webinars. You mentor special forces candidates, which you were talking about, which is pretty cool. Before we got on the show, and you volunteer with the Anti-Trafficking Bureau, a nonprofit organization which rescues, restores, and protects children trapped in sexual exploitation industry. I mean, thank you for your continued service. That's good stuff, man.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah.
And speaking of Veterans Day, two things. Big thank you for the advisors that are on this morning, but also those advisors that have served our great country, or loved ones. Want to say thank you that have served. Just want to say thank you for that service. And also, Phil, if you'd like to, before we hand this over to Delzy, say a few words about Veterans Day and what it means to you.
Yeah, guys, I just want to personally thank you as well for all of you advisors out there who have served in some capacity. I'm not anything special. I'm really not. I'm just one cog in the big machine. So it takes all of us to make it all go round, and we're all fighting on the same side. So you guys, thank you for your service. And I get a question a lot, and that is, Phil, it doesn't seem like enough just to thank a veteran for his service. Like, what else can we do? So especially since Veterans Day is coming up, what I like to say is also take it a step further and thank their families as well. Thank their spouses and their kids. Say, hey, will you thank your spouse for me genuinely? Will you please thank your spouse and your children for me? Because they're the ones that are stuck holding the ball. They're the ones that are at home that are making life still happen while we're deployed and out training and doing everything that we can do. So I couldn't do what I did without my wife and my kids being able to support me as well too. So I would just encourage you, go that step further, thank the veteran, and then also relay your deepest thanks and gratitude to their families as well too. So
good point.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a great message. So, hey, James, thank you for being the lead on this and putting this together. I've been thinking about this for years of doing something special like this, and so you've helped me be able to participate in something like that. So Phil, I thank you from the bottom of my heart, and my family thanks you. And that is a powerful little message there, that it's not just about you, but it's also your family that sacrifices alongside with you. So I will truly remember that when I thank other service members as well. So thank you for that. So with this, let's kick this thing off with a bang. And I can't imagine any other way than a guy sitting on his couch holding something like a bazooka next to him. So Phil, I'm sorry, but before we get into the serious stuff, I need to know what the heck is sitting next to you on your couch. Can you describe what that thing is?
Yeah, sure. So, bazooka is close. It's actually a rocket launcher.
A rocket,
so,
okay, even better.
Yep. There's 3 rocket launchers that we use in the SEAL teams. The first one, the smallest one, is the one that I have behind my left shoulder here. That's the Law Rocket. It stands for Light Anti-Tank Weapon. The second one is an AT-4, and the third one is a Carl Gustav. I mean, that just sounds mean, doesn't it? The Carl Gustav, awesome. Like that. That sucker's huge. But yeah, this is primarily what we would carry when we're either in the helos and the Humvees. This is what we would use to be able to scare the enemy. So this is how you would do it. It comes loaded, already preloaded, so it's a one and done. That's what we say, one and done. So once you fire it, you can't reload it at all. So this is how it comes. It has a little pin in it, like with a grenade, a grenade pin. So you pull the pin out, you fold this piece of rubber down. That's your shoulder protector there for your shoulder, and then you cock it by just pulling it straight back like that. It's got a little arming system, so you pull that forward to arm it, and then here's the trigger. Here's the little sight aperture. So you point it at the bad guys. Make sure that you check your back blast area, that know the guys are behind you are going to get hurt. Point it at the enemy, yell rocket out, and shoot it. And you watch the bad guys go running. They don't like these very much. So a Law Rocket light anti-tank weapon is what we use. It is fairly light, but it packs a big punch for sure.
Is that we're not going to get into the go bag yet, but is that in the go bag, or is it?
Yeah, it can be. Normally, we've got our Law Rockets already pre-staged on the birds or the Humvees. So yeah. And by the way, it's a bird or a helo and not a chopper. All right. So don't say chopper during the call, because it's like that drives me crazy. It's just like one of my pet peeves.
Don't call it chopper.
Yeah, I blame Arnold Schwarzenegger for that one, right? Like, get to the chopper. It's not a chopper. It's a bird or a helo. A bird or a helo. So yeah. Okay. Anyways, we stage all our rockets and all that extra stuff that we might need on target. We stage it all in the Humvees and in the helos.
That's pretty cool. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So that's definitely starting off with a bang. I mean, my gosh, I don't think I ever thought on a Wednesday morning that I would be seeing, a rocket launcher on the show, right? James, this is the first for both of us. So,
I mean, by the way,
what's that?
I was going to say, for the advisors out there, I mean, if you guys get, what a rocket launcher, I mean, you're going to get all your clients to show up to their appointments. I'm just saying. So, another fun fact about me, as well, is that my dad was a financial advisor on the independent side for 30 years in Cincinnati, Ohio, where I grew up. So let's go Bengals. Here we go. I've been a Bengals fan all my life, through the thick and the thin. I'm not just a bandwagon Bengals fan, but yeah. So he was on the independent side. So I wanted to talk today about the DOL and the Reg BI and the downturn of the market, but Brighthouse, they're like, no, Phil, you can't do that, man. Don't, please, you got to bring the rocket launchers instead. So.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Well, look at him talking our lingo, folks. I mean, come on, we're getting it all today, aren't we, James?
Oh yeah. So, Phil, being in Colorado, do you miss Skyline Chili?
Oh my gosh, James. So check this out. So my dad's 70th birthday is on Veterans Day. His birthday is on Veterans Day. And so this Friday, we're actually flying out to Cincinnati for a surprise 70th birthday party for him. And I don't know if I'm more excited to see my dad or if I'm more excited to put a cheese coney in my mouth,
That's pretty
I love Skyline Chili,
brother.
It is so good. That and Grader's ice cream, so good, man. So good.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So the question I always hear for folks like you is, how in the world did you decide to become a Navy SEAL? Like what? So I read your book. And folks, if you haven't, even known about it or whatever, please go out and get this book. It's actually, I got it on iBooks and I listened to the Audible version. And it's the truth behind my Trident is what the book's called. And it really is just talking about overcoming life's and business obstacles through a Navy SEAL's way. So so the book basically describes you as a kid who dressed in fatigues from the day you could probably dress yourself, right? And carving knives and weapons and things. So it's not a surprise that you ended up like in this line of service, if you will. But why the Navy SEALs? Why not, special ops in the Army or anything else? What drove you to this decision?
Yeah, so here's I actually brought a copy of my book up here just for those of you who want to get like a good visual, take a screenshot or whatever, The Truth Behind My Trident. And like you said, Matt, this is where I pull back the curtain and show the general public what an average day in the life of the Navy SEAL looks like as I walk through my journey, my personal journey. Hollywood does a really good job of portraying the missions of SEALs. Honestly, too good of a job. If you ask me, they've got active duty Navy SEALs on set teaching them our standard operating procedures. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Like, you guys realize Americans aren't the only ones watching these movies, right? Like, I understand you want to make a truckload of money with this, but like at what expense? So I actually calculated out that we only spend 3% of our time is actually boots on the ground conducting our mission. The other 97% is what I wanted to create and talk about in my book here. And it's a pretty short read. I made it a short read because I really am not a big fan of reading. I'll admit that. And we don't have a whole lot of time nowadays. So I wanted to make it a pretty short to the point kind of read. So The Truth Behind My Trident. Anyway, so back to your question. Yeah, I was a little ADD growing up. I loved weapons. I loved, dressing in fatigues and stuff. And then I got to high school and stuff and I swam in high school and then I swam in college. And, the whole college thing, I'm like, all right, I got to fit in. I got to blend in. I got to do the corporate thing. Probably I got to go to business school. So I got my undergrad in marketing. And I don't know if you've ever seen or any of the audience has ever seen Office Space, but yeah, that was me. I was stuck in my cubicle with my business suit on, not seeing anybody. I'm like with my TPS reports, and I'm like, what am I doing here? So corporate America is actually, I joke around, it's actually the one thing that got me in life. That's the one thing that I rang the bell was corporate America. I had about as much as I could stand for about 8 months of it. I was in corporate America up in the Northeast in Wilton, Connecticut at a subsidiary of Fox called News America Marketing. I was there for 7-8 months and I'm like, yeah, I can't do this. So at that point, I decided to get out, join the military. I actually went over to the Army side first, Matt. And they said, hey, glad to have you in. But just so you know, before you go to the Green Beret, which is the Special Forces, you have to do 2 years in the infantry before you can actually go to the Q course. And I was a cocky college grad. I was 23 years old at the time. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. So I went literally across the hall to the Navy side. And they said, well, the good news is, you already have your college degree and we're giving $8,000 sign-on bonus for enlisted guys who have their degrees. So as soon as I saw the dollar signs in my eyes, I was like, yeah, I'm good. Sign me up. $8,000 to a 23-year-old kid is a lot of money. But the better news was I could just go right in. So I went to boot camp in Great Lakes, and then I went to A school, which is A school is like our job in the Navy. So if you quit, buds, we'll talk about our training and stuff here in a little bit. But if you quit, they send you back out to the fleet for 2 years before they give you another opportunity. The last opportunity, you only get 2 chances to go through SEAL training. If you quit, they send you back out to the fleet. Well, when they send you back out to the fleet, they need to know what job, where to send you basically. So that's our A school that we go to in the very beginning is whatever job in the Navy that you would have if you weren't a SEAL, if that makes sense. So it was boot camp, yeah. A school, and then I could go right into BUDS, basic underwater demolition school. To become a SEAL. And then and then get right back into the SEAL team. So there was no like transition waiting period like there was in the Army. So, and I had I was a college swimmer. I swam Division I at the University of Toledo with a scholarship, which is great. I was very thankful for that. So that kind of made sense to me as well too, like the whole water thing and the swimming and the SEALs and all that. So it just kind of fit together. So that and the fact that I'm half crazy anyways, so it was good.
Is it true that you don't have to know how to swim to join the SEALs? I've heard that. Like they train you how to swim.
It's possible, I guess it's possible, but if you don't have that comfortability or familiarity in the water, that's what gets most guys is the cold temperatures and then the uncomfortability underwater. So we do something called, drown proofing, where they literally tie our arms, our hands, our wrists. They tie our wrists and put our arms behind our back. They tie our ankles together with ropes. And they throw us in a 14-foot pool, and we have to bob up and down for 5 minutes with our hands tied behind our back and our ankles tied together. And then immediately after that, we have to traverse 100 yards completely bound like that as well. We have to traverse 100 yards, and then right after that, we have to float for 10 minutes. So that's called drown proofing. And so to your point, yeah, you can join BUD/S. You can join if you don't know how to swim, I guess, but it's definitely a good idea to learn some sort of some skills in the pool so that you're not sucking wind and you're not, you have some sort of a leg up with the other guys that are there. Does that make sense?
Makes
sense.
So
that's one of the things that's like one of the main things that I do because I was a D1 college swimmer. One of the main things that I do right now as the SEAL motivator, I'm out here in Colorado and I go to the Air Force Academy every week to train guys who want to do these guys they're in the Air Force right now, but they want to do a lateral transfer into the Navy and go to BUD/S. I'm the SEAL motivator where I help come in and help train these guys. That's one of the main things that I do is just help them with their swim technique because everyone has to learn combat side stroke. So that's what we use in the SEAL teams, and that's what we learn in training as well too, is combat side stroke.
So you hear you say that, Phil, like to talk about the drown proofing, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna get into this later, but how do you keep yourself from panicking or keep your mind under control when you're in that? I'm not a good, I can swim, but not a good swimmer, right? So walk through that was it's like how do you not panic?
Yeah, that's a great question. So 80%, I get asked a lot, is BUD/S more physical? Is it more mental? 80% of BUD/S, 80 at least, is mental. 80% of BUD/S is mental, 20% is physical. Why do I say that? Because BUD/S is designed to break your body down, physically break your body down. Everyone's body breaks at some point. I talk about that as well in my book. The times where, I really had to dig deep, get that gut check and continue and power through when my body was breaking down on me. And that's when the instructors want to see if you've got what it takes between your two ears to really persevere and push through. And if you have the mental toughness that it takes. So what I tell guys, I'm like, look, when you're I call it a chicken neck, when you're going like fighting for air, underwater, like when you feel like you're about to pass out, when you're starting to see stars, I say, just go to your happy place. Everybody has to have a happy place, right? When physically it's getting unbearable, you flip a switch in your mind, you go to your happy place, you use your 5 senses in your happy place. You do the very best that you possibly can to distract yourself from your physical outside world, enter into this mental world where you're looking at what's around you. You're smelling the smells. You're feeling like what am I touching? What am I handling or holding? What are the sounds that I'm hearing? What am I tasting? If that even makes sense, right? So for me, my happy place was in Canada. My family owned a cabin in Canada since the year I was born, 1979. It was 4 hours north of Toronto, right there on the French River. And it was all powered by a generator. We were off the grid. I loved that place. We went fishing and skiing. And I mean, everything was right there on Bass Lake. We went hunting and hiking. It was phenomenal. So that is my happy place, was that cabin that we had in Canada. And so that was my happy place. I was like, okay. So does that make sense, you guys? So like when times get rough, I'm like, look, guys, just turn everything outward off and go completely inward, mental, and just go to your happy place and force all of that pain and all of that discomfort to the outskirts as you're focused on what is going on internally. So
it makes sense. So my guess is that it takes some training to do that. And by the way, my Matt Delzy, my sunshine shield is not working anymore. So
I see that.
It came back.
It looks like you're going to heaven, dude.
Yeah.
He's being called. He's being called.
You get this light that's coming down and like snatching you.
Yeah, right. If I disappear, you know why?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I meant that's something that you work on too as you go through the process, is getting to that happy place and staying there. I imagine through the process, because I mean it makes sense. Especially the five senses. I thought about that, and just to get there, feel to actually mentally put yourself there. Right? Is that what you're saying? And stay there for as long as you need to be.
Phil,
James,
I'm sorry, but how do you get to the happy place when one of your training sessions was to throw you into shark infested waters and they cover you in chum? How in the world can you get your five senses to the happy place when you have to? How far did you have to swim through those shark infested waters?
Yeah, so I think you're talking about third phase. So half of third phase is spent out on San Clemente Island, which turns out to be like the number 3 or 4, I think, most popular great white breeding ground in all of the world. And we're like, well, that's awesome, because that's right where we do our 5-mile open ocean swim is right there in third phase, right there in San Clemente Island. So yeah, right before the big swim, we're in our wetsuits and all the instructors bring us in this room, and for about 15 minutes they show us clips of Jaws from the movie, and then they put us out on this big slab of concrete that we call the grinder. So we're all lined up like a bunch of sardines, and we're doing flutter kicks until our hip flex for about an hour, until our hip flexors feel like they want to just pop out of our legs, and right as we're finishing up, there's 2 instructors that are walking towards us with big buckets with big barrels of something, and they start pouring all this crap all over us. Well, I'm in the middle. Yeah. Am I coming through okay?
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay. So I'm in the middle of this, and they're pouring all this crap all over us, and it finally gets to me right there in the middle, and it's fish chum, right? And I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Like, you're making us a tasty little treat for Jaws? Like, I guarantee you that safety boat out there 20 feet away can't get to me faster than a shark is going to attack me. So they're like, well, that's why you have to be a better swimmer than your swim buddy. And so you have your dive knives. So just make sure you stab your swim buddy and swim away as fast as you can. So that wasn't all that much comfort, having one little knife, in the safety boat out there. So, but yeah, going to your happy place, that physical discomfort constantly tries to pull you back into this reality of what you're going through externally. And so that's where the mental perseverance, the mental toughness, and the fortitude and the grit comes in, to be able to stay in the moment, but then also remaining physically and mentally strong, if that makes sense. So staying in the moment, paying attention to what's going on in the moment, right? Not completely checking out, but then not allowing that pain to overwhelm you to the point of exhaustion or where you're going to quit. So staying in the moment while mentally staying in the moment, simultaneously going to your happy place, blocking out that pain while still paying attention to your surroundings and kind of what's going on around you as well too. So, and there's obviously going to be varying degrees of that as well too, right? I mean, during drown proofing, it's just me in the water and that's it. During underwater knot tying, it's just me in the water. During our 2-minute tread, which sucks during second phase, with our twin 260 tanks on our back, and or twin 240. I forget the tanks that are on our back, but they're about 60 pounds, and we have to tread water with our hands out of the water for about 2 minutes without our heads going underwater. I mean, there's all kinds of the drown proofing, of course, is one. So yeah, surf torture is another one where we're linking arms with our brothers and laying in the ocean till we've got, hypothermia and we're about ready to pass out. And so there's a lot of evolutions as well too. So if it's just you, then yeah, I'm going to stay more in my mental happy place. But if there's external things that are going on that I have to pay attention to, then I have to learn how to simultaneously kind of straddle both of those, right? Blocking out the pain, staying in my happy place while paying attention to my surroundings as well too. So yeah.
James, you know what this is a great use of is, when your clients come in, all the advisors on the call, or your father, when he was an advisor, is hey, you can complain about your statement being down for the quarter or your money, your accounts, but let's just watch this video with Phil and explain, him having a bad day versus a bad quarter. So, let's put these things in perspective, right? No, that's absolutely insane. My gosh, that's crazy. So, James, there's a question from Lee. Do you want to ask that question? It's a very timely one for what Phil was just talking about.
Absolutely. And thanks for our first question here. What aspects of your training have proven most helpful in your work regarding human trafficking? Some aspects of that have got to be heartbreaking to see, and it's got to be take a mental and emotional toll over time.
Yeah. So read me the question one more. Was it specifically around the trafficking, or was it around my training as well too?
Yeah. So how have you basically applied your training? How is that proven to most helpful in your work regarding human trafficking? So you take your background and your training and apply it to human trafficking. How's it helping you there?
Well, just from a practical standpoint, we go into brothels and help rescue girls. And so from a situational awareness and from a tactical standpoint, my training as a SEAL has really helped me with that, because I know how to vet guys. I know how to, the questions to ask. I know what to watch for. I've got escape and egress routes. I know what my contingency plans are, my courses of action, that sort of thing. So that actually helps with the physical rescuing of the girl. But on an emotional and mental standpoint, you're right. I gotta take breaks. I mean, it does have a lot of an emotional toll on you, and so I have to limit my trips, and the exposure that I have to a lot of that is it's tough, because it really does take a mental and emotional toll on you. So being able to take breaks and kind of come up for air with that. I don't know how the guys do it. So I primarily work in Cambodia, Thailand, and in the Dominican Republic. And I don't know how the guys do it that live down there, permanently, that are actually there, that are Cambodian or Taiwanese, they're the ones that are there. It's hard. It's really, really hard. But we help rescue the girls, then we rehabilitate them. A lot of the girls end up back on the streets doing the same thing if they don't have a job where they can actually earn money. So we teach them a trade. We share the gospel with them, and we make sure medically that they're okay. They go through med checks and that sort of thing as well too. So, but yeah, it's from an operational standpoint, it's fairly easy. But the hard part, like you said, you nailed it, was it's the emotional and the mental standpoint that's really hard. Yeah, it takes a toll.
And Lisa, thank you for taking the question. Thanks for asking, Lee. Phil, when you take a step back, take a break in between on the mental side, I read some stuff on balance and threshold. How do you work through that to get yourself back doing what you love, is helping people? It sounds like, how do you work through the mental aspects of the downtime, so to speak?
Yeah. So 2 big things. Make sure you've got a really great team behind you. One of my presentations, Overcoming Adversity, it's been pretty popular lately. I talk about our pack. Who are the 4 or 5 people that you have in your inner circle that you can really rely on? So make sure that your inner circle, that pack or your team, that you're being able, that you can be very transparent, very vulnerable with them, that you can be honest and say, look, guys, I'm not having a good day right now. I'm pretty jacked up. I need some help. being willing and able to say that is huge. And then the second thing is make sure that you learn how to rest. Make sure you learn how to rest very, very well. We're human beings designed to be created in community, right? So we need other people, and we're also designed to have a balance in life where we work and we rest, right? There has to be a healthy balance. There has to be a healthy, as that pendulum swings, we have to get both of those, or we'll find ourselves burned out to the max, not able to give the best that we possibly can because we're go, 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 work, 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 produce, produce. And unfortunately, living in the United States in a Western culture, we have more of that work, work, work kind of mentality. I mean, if I was to tell you, every single day I strive to take a nap for at least 30 minutes to 45 minutes every single day. Half the people on the call would be like, dude, what's wrong with you? I thought you were a SEAL. Don't you only get like 2 hours of sleep every night? And aren't you like, oh, like I'm a machine and go, go, go. I'm like, no, dude, I bleed just like you do. And I get tired just like you do, and we need to rest. Give yourself permission to rest. Pick up a good book if you're an introvert and curl up on the couch, play some video games. Fun fact about me, dude, I love a couple of video games that I play on my phone, mentally just checking out every day, when I get some time. Take a nap, go on a walk, go work out. I don't really love to work out, but I do it out of necessity. It's like going to the dentist or taking a vitamin, like I do it because I know it's good for me. But it does create a little bit of that physical and emotional and mental release as well, too, when I work out. So you got to do something at least 30 to 60 minutes a day to refresh yourself, to fill your bucket, which is what I like to say. Fill your bucket. Make sure that you're doing something to rejuvenate yourself so that you have, as a leader, you have the best that you can give your team and the people that rely on you around you. You give them your best because guess what? You're filled up and you're not running on fumes, right? So work, rest is huge. And then make sure you've got 4 or 5 guys on your team, James, to really be able to help you through those tough times and really help you be able to course correct if you need to, right? To course correct. We do a lot of land navigation as SEALs. We have to learn map and compass skills because if our GPS goes out and runs out of batteries, whatever happens, we need to have that good old fashioned map and compass skills. And if you're off by just 1 degree as you're going in for your 4 to 5 kilometer infills or exfills, by the time, if you're just off 1 little degree, by the time that you're at your destination, you find yourself considerably further away than where you wanted to be. And I think that's a really great life lesson. If we give ourselves just a little bit of wiggle room to be off and not really stay on point and stay laser focused, if we give ourselves just a little bit of wiggle room, guess what? You're not going to end up making the mark. You're going to miss the mark. You're not going to be able to make your goals. You're going to be scratching your head, 2, 3, 4 months, 6 months down the road. Like, man, why am I not doing X, Y, and Z? I wanted to get here. Well, it's because you've allowed yourself to not course correct. You've allowed yourself to get off track just a little bit. But as that time goes by, you find yourself pretty darn far away, right? So I hope that makes sense.
Too much sense.
No, it definitely does. Oh my gosh. So the thing you talked about in your book is what you touched on this just a few minutes ago. You actually touched on your 5 pillars, and one was your wolf pack, if you will, right? From from the movie. But you talk about one of the biggest issues Navy SEALs have, or any special ops, is the fact that loneliness is huge, and PTSD, and them coming back and just feeling like they don't know anyone to turn to. How is that important, in terms of, I hate to share the statistic, but you shared it in your book. Is it true that 22 service people commit suicide a day? Is that
that number right now is hovering between 20 and 21 a day. Yep.
A day. Oh my gosh. I mean, that's just, I can't even imagine that. So what are you doing with these young bucks that you're now training them to go out? I mean, is there a training program that you try to, like, hey, look, this is what to expect and this is how to avoid it? Like what type of training are you doing there?
For the guys that are getting out, or for the guys that are coming into the program?
Well, I mean, look, if you can like, you probably didn't know this 10, 15 years ago, right? That this was going to be actual reality, and this is what the results are going to be, right? So
Right.
are you guys trying to, you know, just anticipate this, that this is the mindset, what's going on? How do you get ahead of that? It's almost like an advisor when they're selling a client a product or investment, going, hey, look, you can lose money in this thing. I'm giving you an advance notice that this is not going to always work out. So it's almost kind of like that, but, you know, in terms of, you know, a Navy SEAL coming back from duty.
Yeah. I mean, as a young guy, there's just certain things that every young guy that's going through SEAL training thinks. They always think they're bulletproof, right? And they don't really have the perspective of like, oh, let me set myself up for success for when I get out. I can do X, Y, and Z and make sure that I've got this, and this squared away. So I'm not feeling super lonely, and I'm not contemplating suicide, and I'm not going down a deep rabbit hole and drinking myself to death and all of that. So I would say, as great as it would be to implement something on the front end of training, I think it's really important to hammer it home once guys are getting out. And I do have to say that over the last 10 to 15 years, I think the VA has done a decent job of making sure that guys get the physical help and honestly the mental health as well too. I think they really upped their game and making sure that guys get the counseling and therapy and the psychological help. I went through EMDR. I went through a lot of counseling and psychology type stuff to help me deal with some of the triggers that I had as I was getting out. I've been diagnosed with operator syndrome, which, we can get into that later. It's a whole nother story, but I've got certain skill sets that I'm implementing to be able to help me with some of those symptoms that I experience with operator syndrome. But another thing, a really cool statistic, we said, 21 veterans take their life every day. The VA really doesn't do a good job of the spiritual wounds of war. There's a lot of spiritual components that go into taking someone's life, that go into engaging on a battlefield and the wounds of war that can happen spiritually. The VA really doesn't address that. So one of the programs that I work with at my local church here in Colorado Springs is called Reboot Combat Recovery. And it's a 12-week program. We talk about suicide and triggers, and we talk about grief and depression. It's really great training. And no one has committed suicide after having gone through that program. So it's one of the statistics that we have, that out of the thousands and thousands, it's a nationwide program. It's not just us. It's a nationwide program. It's called Reboot Combat Recovery. And it's really cool. It's really cool that no veteran has committed suicide after having gone through that program. So it's big.
Is that voluntary or mandatory?
It's voluntary. Yep, it's voluntary.
Wow.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yep.
James, you want to?
Yeah. No. So
you want to read that next question that just came up?
Yeah, so this question came from the audience. I don't know who it's anonymous, but it's in the form of patriotism, right? And the belief that it's eroded over the years. What are your thoughts about that belief that patriotism has gone down over the years? Why do you think that is, if that's that's out there?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say I don't really think from a personal level that patriotism has gone down over the years. I think that the loudest voices that are out there in media and social media, the loudest voices that are out there aren't as patriotic. And so that could give you the impression that the United States isn't as patriotic as we used to be, because certain members in the administration right now might not be as pro-military. And some of the louder voices that are out there in the media and on social media aren't quite as patriotic. But I would say boots on the ground from the guys that are actually in the military, the men and the women that are in the military, I would say that we are absolutely very patriotic. It is God and country and family, not in that order necessarily, but I mean, like it's country and God, family, like it's right up there, you know. So the patriotism that I've seen within my brothers in the SEAL teams, along with just in the military in general, is still, I mean, obviously I didn't live back in the Civil War. I didn't live during World War I, World War II. I mean, I don't have that unique perspective, but for today, post-modern day warfare in 2022, in the time that I served, yeah, I think men and women are absolutely just as patriotic. I would say that.
Awesome. Yeah. We have another great question from Trip. Thanks for sending this in, and a great tee-up question for you. But he says, share with the Phil, would you share with the group the 5 Ps? You know, your 5 Ps. I think for in regards to adversity.
Yeah, and when James has me back out in person, you guys can come and we'll talk about the 5 Ps again in person. Those 5 Ps are preparation is number 1, positivity is number 2, perseverance is 3, your pack is 4, and then progress is 5. Those are the 5 Ps. Would you mind hitting on each one of them high level before we have you back out here? Yeah. Preparation. Yeah. And I'm a really practical guy as well, too. So at every one of those pillars, I'm giving guys practical stories and practical application and how they can grow and develop that specific thing. So preparation is pretty, self-explanatory. It's how can you as an advisor be more prepared to help you up your game and help you become more successful in your field and in your industry. And then we talk about my preparation as a Navy SEAL in training and then in the SEAL teams as well too. Positivity, talk about how that's a learned behavior. Have a great 30-day challenge for people that we could actually form new neurological pathways in our brain to help us to think and react more positively in life. Fascinating studies. The other one is perseverance. So I talk about Hell Week a lot and having a this too shall pass kind of mentality in life. The fourth one is your pack, or who you choose to hang out with. I tell this to parents all the time. I say, you show me your kids' friends and I'll show you their futures. Because who our children choose to hang out with. I have 5 kids at home, not right now because they're in school, but I got 5 kids. We're a blended family, anywhere from 16 all the way to 9, 16, 14, 2 11-year-olds and a 9-year-old. So 5 kids. And I tell this to parents all the time. I say, you show me your kids' friends. Who they choose to hang out with has a direct impact on their attitudes, their interests, and the beliefs. You show me their friends, I'll show you their futures and where they're headed. So who we choose to hang out with in our pack is huge. Being vulnerable, being transparent, having just the mentality, having accountability, that sort of thing is huge in our pack. And then lastly, the role that progress plays in overcoming adversity, even in the midst of failing, even in the midst of feeling like a failure at times, even in the midst of being overwhelmed with fear, this fearful mindset that our country is looming over our country right now. We're the most medicated country in all the world. There's so many people out there that are riddled with fear. So how do we transform that fear into positive fighting energy and use that as progress as we move forward? So that's my 50,000-foot view of that presentation. Yeah.
Jays, we got to let Darren Weese's question be answered.
What's that?
Did you see Darren's question?
Oh, yeah. I
think it's a great one.
Thanks for going a little bit more in depth on that one, Phil.
Yeah.
Darren, thanks for this question as well. Who is the greatest leader you've come across in the SEALs, and what did you learn from them?
The greatest leader that I came across in the SEALs and what I learned from them. Well, I can't share his name because he's still associated with Naval Special Warfare out on the West Coast. I just ran into him though. He's got the same name I do. So it's Phil. I won't share his last name. But he was a great leader. He was one of my platoon OICs, my officers in charge when I was on SEAL Team 10. Really good, really good dude. And a really great leader. And one of the things that made him a great leader is he didn't micromanage us, unlike which I talk about in my 3-dimensional leadership presentation. Unlike our platoon chief, they had 2 very night and day leadership styles. But Phil, he really led from the front. He demonstrated what the behavior that he wanted to see. He demonstrated that. It wasn't a do what I say and not as I do. It was, I want to treat other people the way I want to be treated. I want to do the things that I want my guys to do. So he led the way through example by example. And that was really huge for me.
Awesome.
Yeah. Great question. I've got my master's in leadership. I went to, that's one of the reasons that brought me out here to Colorado is getting my master's in leadership. So leadership is a topic that's very near and dear to my heart for sure. Yeah.
So we have to touch on this. I mean, look at James, look at all the stuff around him, right? So what you talk about the go bag, right? And it kind of reminds me of Ephesians 6, right? The armor of God. And it's kind of like all the same protection. So can you like compare your go bag or armor of God to an advisor's and what you think an advisor's go bag would look like?
Sure.
At least walk us through some of the stuff around you as a part of your go bag.
Yeah, sure. So there's 3 lines of gear that we all use and that we all wear. So I'll just kind of go through them real fast. So all 3 lines of our gear fit in something called a go bag. I mentioned my go bag in my book, and our go bag stays next to us every day, like while we sleep, because we sleep during the day and we operate at night. So we have our go bag next to our beds as we're sleeping during the day. This is my go bag. So it's literally just a bag that fits my gear inside of it, all 3 lines of my gear. First line of gear is actually everything that I'm wearing on me. So we have these tops modified overseas because it's around 95 to 100 degrees at night in the Middle East in the summertime, which is when I was deployed over my second deployment. SEAL Team 10, we did 78 combat missions in 6 months. While we were over there. So our op tempo was very, very fast. We did a lot of good over there while we were deployed for my second deployment. But we had these tops modified because it's really hot. You'll see my operator number. I got my operator number. I was Foxtrot 33. I was a fire team leader in Foxtrot Platoon of Task Unit 3 of SEAL Team 10. We've got anything. Well, this is kind of cool. So this is called a blood chit. That's CHIT, not SHIT. So a blood chit is it's just a piece of cloth. It's according to the Geneva Convention, we all have to carry a blood chit on us at all times. So basically this says, hey, I'm a United States soldier. And if you're reading this right now, the U.S. will pay you a lot of money to take good care of me. So I joke around for the advisors in the audience. I joke around. It's kind of like an insurance policy and a bribe all written into one piece of cloth here. And it's got a lot of different languages on it as well too. There's 5 theaters of the world, 5 theaters that we can be deployed to, and depending on what theater of the world that you're deployed to will determine what the languages are. So we got AFRICOM, which is Africa, EUCOM, which is Europe, CENTCOM, which is Central Command, which is the Middle East. We have SOUTHCOM, which is South America and the Panhandle, and we've got PACOM. That's the 5th one. PACOM is the Pacific theater of the world. So our tops, our bottoms, you can carry whatever kind of tertiary weapon that you wanted to. So I was first introduced to a knife called a Karambit knife when I was in the SEAL teams. And I've got one of my Karambits on me right now. So this is the only knife that's got a finger ring that you can actually still keep it in your possession while you're actually drawing and shooting with your firearm. And it's the only knife that you can deploy with a single finger. So it's got a pocket catch right here. That's why I really liked it. You can catch this thing on any kind of material that you possibly can. Usually it's in your pocket. So you pull it out from your pocket. It catches on your pocket catch. It looks like a raptor claw. So nobody in the office will mess with you if you've got one of these things. But this is my Karambit with my American flag scales for Veterans Day on it. So you guys are now looking at the new proud owner of Karambit Tactical Knives. That's why I'm so passionate about this right now. That's why I'm so stoked, because I love these things. I've been selling them for about 7 years, and no joke, the owner of Karambit, before it was myself, calls me in August of 2020. He's like, hey, I'm selling the company. What do you think? Do you want it? and thought about it for about a second and a half, and I was like, hell yeah. So my business partner is a financial advisor. Big shout out to Will Simpkins right there in Ashburn, Virginia. He's our CFO. He's my business partner, and we're crushing it together. So we're the largest distributor of Karambit tactical knives. If you guys want to go on there, they make amazing, amazing gifts. So Karambit, that's K. Can you guys share this in the notes? Can you guys do that? Like type this in like the notes in the chat there or whatever it is. So it's Karambit, Karambit, Karambit. Yep. .com.
Right.
Yep. And for the guys on the call today, for the men and women, I say guys, I'm from Cincinnati, I mean men and women, right? I'm not trying to offend anybody by saying guys. So for the people, for the folks, for y'all that are on the call today, the 10% coupon code for you guys, Cutting Edge, all lowercase, Cutting Edge will save you 10% if you guys get on there today. Anyways, that's my 1 minute spiel on Karambit tactical knives. But this was my tertiary weapon in the SEAL teams. So love the Karambit knife. I use this a lot every day. I was separating my kids' Legos just the other day with this thing, cutting food, opening up boxes, whatever I need to do. I carry this thing on me all the time. I feel naked actually if I don't have it on me. So this is my Karambit knife. And then my second line of gear, you guys will see a little bit next behind me. So this is my H gear. This fits both sets of my body armor inside of it. So this is what I wore for my second deployment. I had, pockets here for my magazines for my M4, pockets here for my magazine for my SIG 226, which is my 9mm round. I didn't realize I had a live bullet in there. I don't know how TSA has been allowing me to go through there with a live bullet. Woo! Okay.
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah, pocket there. And here's my holster for my SIG 226. I had pockets here to the left and the right for tourniquets or maps or grenades. We had smoke grenades, thermite grenades, frag grenades that we would carry on us. My M-Biter radio went right here with its with the whip, the antenna that went up here. And then this set of H gear is pretty unique because it actually holds both sets of my body armor inside of it. And I have with me right here both sets of my body armor, and I'll talk about those just real fast. Yeah. So the soft armor is what a lot of local law enforcement use. So if I was to wear this armor just by itself, this could stop a 9mm round. Just by itself is designed to stop a 9mm round. Our hard plates, which are fairly heavy, these are about 10 to 15 pounds, depending on the size. So I've got a medium plate. This is a woven Kevlar. And of course, when I come back in person, I'll pass all these around. You guys can actually feel them, try them on, that sort of thing. But by itself, this is designed to stop a 5.56 round, which is what we shoot out of our AK-4, or what we shoot out of our M4s. Sorry, 5.56 round out of our M4s, which is our primary weapon. And then when we wear these together, which obviously we're supposed to do, these are designed to stop a 7.62 round, which is what the bad guys shoot out of their AK-47s. So that's a little bit of our body armor. We've got front plates, back plates, side plates, and we have groin plates as well too. We try to cut as much weight as possible. So we're about 50 to 80 pounds heavier than what we normally would be with our weapon system, our ammunition, and our body armor as well too. So it's all the weight definitely adds up. So that's our second line of gear. I got my helmet back here. This is the last part of my secondary gear. This was about 8 pounds. Total weight is 8 to 10 pounds. So this one is about 5 pounds, and I have my nods or my night optical devices right here. That's what helps us see in the dark. So I have those here. These weigh 2 pounds. We've got a counterweight here in the back as another 2 pounds, because you don't want to be walking around like this on target all night, right? So 2 pounds, and then this is about 4 pounds, 4 to 5 pounds. So about an additional 10 pounds on your head. And this is designed to stop a 7.62 round. So ergonomically, this is designed to be able to ricochet and to be able to stop a 7.62 round from coming in. And then our third line of gear is anything that we could keep in our backpacks. So we obviously have a lot of water in our backpacks. And then depending on what your job is, there's 4 main jobs in the SEAL teams. Depending on what your job is will also depend on what is in your backpack. I was a breacher, which means I got to blow stuff up. So we had slap charges and quickie saws and chainsaws and torches that burned at 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit. We had shotguns, we had huli tools, we had sledgehammers. I mean, we had all kinds of stuff to be able to get through the obstacles, because that was my job as a breacher, was to make sure that I got my boys on the target as quickly and safely as possible. So I had to get through all the obstacles that we might be faced with.
Yeah.
That's a ton.
That's a lot of information, isn't it? Sorry, guys.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I hope that was well worth it, right? For you, but for everyone. James, we're closing in on the hour. Right?
Yeah, we have 3 minutes left. Yeah,
Right.
so we just got another question. Thanks, Lee, for throwing out another one. We can ask that one, and then the one I'm gonna just allow you to transition into, Phil, is the one takeaway. We always have at the end of my show, Ideas for Impact and Save for Delzy. It's the one takeaway that somebody can go out and use today. We talked about all the good stuff, but the first question is that there was an interesting comparison of military recruitment commercials comparing U.S. versus China versus Russia. What do you think about our current state of readiness? And are we marketing to the type of people we most need in our armed forces?
Yeah, great questions, you guys. Great questions. Our readiness is we are ready. I can tell you that. I can't tell you the details of what we're ready to do in North Korea, what we're ready to do in Afghanistan or up in Libya or in China. All the hot spots that are out there. Even with Russia in like if they pass into Poland, all of that. Like, we are ready though. We've got troops, we've got boots on the ground, we got guys that are undercover, we got a lot of guys that are out there that are poised to strike if and when that time comes. And that's more surgical. So, the military nowadays, we're not like just sending thousands and thousands of boots on the ground troops, just in mass numbers. That's not our strategy anymore. It's more surgical. So it's more surgical airstrikes with the drones. It's more surgical strikes and maneuvers from special forces units. So you can breathe easy at night knowing that we're ready, that we really are, that we're ready, that we're prepared very well for what is to come. We're still tip of the spear. China is they've got their technology as well too. There's some pretty scary aspects that China has, some pretty scary capabilities, especially with nuclear right now. That's a little concerning. We'll just put it that way. Especially with their subsonic capabilities is pretty fascinating. But we're working on measures though right now to be able to handle those and target those appropriately. Russia, not too worried about Russia. If we had more time, I'd go into a graph of why we pulled out of Afghanistan. I hate the way we did it, but I get why we did it. I get the why behind it. But how we did it was a complete train wreck. But I could show you guys all, especially the advisors on the call, a chart of why we did that as far as military might and money, basically funding. So the funding on the x-axis and the y-axis is the military might. Anyways, did that answer the question? I feel like I just went off on a rant. I think that answered the question. Are we poised? Yes, we're absolutely poised to strike if in targeting people. I mean, as far as recruiting goes, we've always sucked at that. I talk about that as well in my book, in the beginning of my book, ever since the Bush senior administration, how we've tried to target more guys to go through special forces and how that was kind of a failure. But anyways, that's hard. You either got it or you don't. You can't really find. It's not like there's a focused concentration of those kinds of guys that are around. So
that's awesome. And then your one takeaway. I know we talked about going to your happy place, your pack, your 5 Ps, right? All these good tactics. So what is one takeaway from as we round out our final minute here together?
Yeah. So the one takeaway is I liken that to the question that I get asked every single time by the recruits that I train in the Air Force Academy. And they say, Bill, what's the one thing that really got you through training? What's the one thing that really helped you get through? And first and foremost, I say, is my faith. My faith was first and foremost what got me through. The second thing, which is what I want to take away today, is you take it one day at a time. Sometimes, I'm going to be honest with you guys, I've struggled with depression before. Sometimes when you wake up, just looking at the day as a whole seems like too much. So for my guys, I'm like, don't worry about the 4-mile timed run or whatever you have throughout the week. Just take it one day at a time. And when you wake up in the morning, if it's still too overwhelming to look at the day as a whole, break it down into bite-sized pieces, or break it down by meals. Just when you wake up at 0400, just make it to breakfast, and then just make it to lunch, and then make it to dinner, and then make it to mid rations around 3 o'clock in the morning. So similarly with all the advisors on the call, if you're struggling in life, if you're trying to, if you're feeling overwhelmed with adversity and just all the crap in life right now, break down your day into smaller size goals. And as you accomplish those goals throughout the day, you'll learn that you're gaining momentum. You're becoming more successful. You're also developing perseverance, and you're starting to think and look more positively in life because you're accomplishing those smaller goals. So, James, just like, man, maybe the first goal of the day is simply just getting out of bed in the morning, and that's okay, right? Especially when you're struggling with depression, which is lonely, it's miserable, it sucks, it's real. It's very hard. So yeah, breaking down your day into smaller size goals, just take it one day at a time, is what I would leave everybody with. Don't get too caught up in what's coming in the future.
Thank you for the vulnerability and the feedback, the information. That's good.
Yep.
I have to give a plug for this book because
and get a Karambit.
Cutting edge Karambit, right?
Karambit. Yeah.
Karambit. Yeah.
Karambit. And I'm from Philly. I should be able to say right?
Come on.
But I you want to talk about vulnerability. I mean, Phil lays it out there of what he's gone through in his struggles in his book. And Phil, I can't believe how open you were with some of your life choices, if you will, during your time as a SEAL. I commend you for being that open. I don't think I could ever do that.
Well, that's why it's called The Truth Behind My Trident. I wanted to give people a realistic look into, and there's so many misconceptions out there, just one of those, like, oh, Phil, you're a Navy SEAL, like you must be like, a man's man, and you must be like all this big tough, and I'm like, yeah. And guess what? I cry. I get emotional because real men are not afraid to express raw emotion. It's this like, oh, men don't cry. The men that think that real men don't cry, those are the guys that are afraid to go towards that raw emotion. They're afraid to express that raw emotion because it's foreign to them, because it's messy, because it's scary sometimes, right? But I'm like, real men cry because real men aren't afraid to walk into that raw emotion and experience what's going on and to really allow that to impact them. So that's just one of the things, one of the myths that are out there that I wanted to bust. And who better to do that than a Navy SEAL, than someone who's been through it. And in our day and age and our culture is kind of viewed as like, the man's man kind of thing. So, yeah.
No, thank you.
That's awesome. So that's your guys' homework assignment. All is to read or listen to his book, because it's short and sweet, but it's powerful, and it's just a man who exposes his weaknesses, and that's what I love about it, Phil. So, for what all you've been through, thank you for your services. Thank you to all who've been in the service as well on our call. And James, thank you for putting this together. This was awesome.
Yeah. Hey, I don't say this enough, but if you guys like the book, write me a great review on Amazon, please. Amazon's bugging me to always get more reviews out there. So write me a review on Amazon. I'd really, really, really appreciate that. So thank you in advance.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And Matt, James, thanks for having me on the call. You guys had a blast. This is so much fun. Had a really great time with you guys.
Well, different than doing an interview versus you talking the whole time, right?
I know, dude. I love it. I love it. So we'll be back out. I got 4 different presentations. One of them is a self-defense presentation. I teach people how to use their cell phones as a weapon and how to strike and where to strike and how to stand and getting out of chokeholds and everyday situations. It's a lot of fun, especially being from Philly, man. You know how crazy it's getting on the streets out there, you know? So
it's scary, brother.
Yep,
Philly is
yep.
a scary place. So
Yep.
I definitely, you can hold me to that. I'm bringing you out for that. That would be an
That's
awesome
cool.
class.
Yeah, we'll work on that, Phil.
And a lot of the advisors get to bring their spouses too, right? Which they love. Like, how many advisor events are out there where you can actually bring a plus one, where you can actually bring a spouse? So they're bringing their spouses, and I'm teaching their wives and significant others how to beat them up, you know? So it doesn't get any better than that. And I'll get you guys in a chokehold too. So that's worth the price of admission right there.
That's awesome. I'm doing that. That's pretty cool. All right.
We got one more question that popped up. Let's see. Oh, we got a Phil. Thank you for your service and great presentation. So thanks for throwing that out there. Same with Lee.
Yeah.
Thank you for the conversation. It was informative and inspiring. So thanks for the feedback, y'all.
Yep. Thank you, guys. Hey, God bless you guys. Thanks for being on the call. Everybody have a great day and a great Veterans Day weekend.
Dude.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. See you guys.
Bye-bye.